basically, the art world is exactly the same as everyday life. You know, it is harder for women. We do get paid less. We do get respected less. You will have people patronise you, talk down to you, assume. It's exactly the same.
For joining us today. We really appreciate it a lot here at Skilled Hands Organisation.
It's totally my pleasure. Thanks so much for asking.
Yeah,
I really
of course.
appreciate it.
We're obsessed with your stuff. We absolutely love your work and we'd love to know more about it. So if you could explain to those watching what exactly it is that you do.
Yeah, I'm an illustrator, is what I call myself, but I'm also really an artist. So I do street art, huge big acrylic paintings, oil paintings, watercolour paintings, album cover art, posters, and then obviously illustration for books.
Oh wow!
So I do a lot of everything.
A lot of everything. Yeah, 100%. And where did you grow up? Just out of curiosity, because obviously right now we're in Nottingham. Like, where did you grow up? Where are you living at the moment?
I was born and brought up in a caravan in the middle of Wales, and then I moved into Nottingham when I was about 4.
Okay.
And straight into the city centre. So I was a bit like, oh god.
Yeah.
And then I've lived here for the rest for my whole life.
Where in Wales? I'm Welsh, so where in Wales? Yeah.
So North Wales, the hated Welsh.
Okay. I have family in Gower.
Oh, lovely!
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. I was mid Wales, and then all of my family were north, so I go back north a lot to Anglesey and Bangor.
Oh, lovely! I love that. And you enjoy being in Nottingham?
Love it.
Yeah. So you never left. You stayed from the age of 4, and you've always been around here.
I kind of pinged back and forth, but I always returned here because I had my mum here, so I would always come back for my mum.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. And how did you first get into this career path? Like, where and how did your journey with artwork begin? Where did it begin and when?
I was always a kid that, in primary school I'd draw other students' pictures.
Okay.
But then when I tried it at uni, I hated it.
Oh, so where did you go to university?
Well, I didn't get any qualifications from school, so I had to resit my GCSEs as an adult.
Okay.
So I did a night course at Nottingham University.
Oh wow, local.
Yeah. But it was like a work for credit, non-full-time, because I work full-time in the day. Everything that I did, I hated. I didn't like fine art. They kept telling me that I was an illustrator. I went to an open day at Loughborough for illustration, didn't like the sound of that either.
Oh wow.
So I went and did a degree in English and Media and Cultural Theory, did that degree, got my 2-1 and thought, well, I won't be doing art, it's not for me.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to archive film and photographs. So I worked in unpaid placements at the BBC, Bradford Media Museum, and then the government that were in power at the time cut all the funding for archiving.
Oh my goodness. So lots of obstacles being thrown in your way. Yeah.
So I was unemployed.
Oh wow.
And then a friend's mum said, I have this really old friend of mine, he was in his 70s, 80s, kind of, and he wants to write a children's book, will you illustrate it? Because, And I gave it a go and I just thought, I'm alright at this.
Yeah.
So
I think you're more than alright at this.
So I'm totally untrained and I'm totally, apart from doing those modules in art history, I don't have any formal training. Wow. And then when I was 30, I had a big life change and I thought, I'm going to just do this full time. I'm going to really have a crack at it.
And you enjoyed it?
Yeah, absolutely loved it.
And
so I've had my business since then for 8 years.
And so 8 years?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And did you have so obviously it seems like you kind of got into it, not randomly, but almost randomly in a way. So you did you have inspiration before that? Was there someone you looked up to in the art world?
Not really.
Okay, fair enough. I just thought I would ask. And and obviously I've seen your website and the artwork is just absolutely stunning. But what do you what's your favourite go to so you said you do oil paintings and other stuff like that. What's your favourite when you create an art?
Acrylic painting I think is my favourite.
Okay, cool.
And street art. I love using aerosol when I'm painting because you're painting big, so you're using your whole body.
That's your preference?
Yeah. And when I'm doing big paintings I can stand up and I'm using my whole body to do it.
Yeah.
And it's so much nicer than, often when you're an illustrator and you're doing everything by hand, that's my thing, you're like this. You're hunched over, you're doing tiny little things. and it's just not pleasurable.
Yeah, you'd rather be standing up and all in it and everything. No, I get it. It makes sense. It makes sense. And I've seen like amazing images on your website of different artists, like ones that are relevant to today. So I saw Chance the Rapper, I saw Kendrick Lamar, and I saw icons like Notorious B.I.G. Like, does it play like a big part in your life? Like, is that a big influence to you? Because I've never actually like come across artwork and seen those kind of artists. Like, I love Chance the Rapper, so when I saw him on there, I was like, wow, she knows about this guy. Like, how does music influence you in terms of your work?
Yeah, music is my inspiration.
Really?
Every type of music, but hip hop particularly. And I'm of that generation where when hip hop first came out, it was really not just the music, it was a whole way of life. And I had quite a weird upbringing. So as a kind of outsider, and when you're young, you look to your little tribe to see how where you fit in. And actually, music was my tribe. I knew what music I loved, and I listened to it. Like, hip hop.
Okay. It was always hip hop, even from like a younger age.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then obviously it developed into garage, and then grime, and then everything that came.
All these different avenues that you can use as like different inspiration for your career and. That's great. So your favourite genre of music, that was like my next question, is hip hop, but you just answered that. And like, what age would you say your art is like targeted towards? Because obviously I'm like a young adult and I was really interested, like, oh wow, like this is stuff I can like relate to, this is music I listen to, whereas like my 11-year-old brother might not listen to that kind of music and my mum might not listen to that kind of music. But what is your like target audience age-wise, or it's just all ages? Like,
I think because it's difficult, isn't it? When you're making things that make you feel amazing, you're basically making stuff for your age and anybody that knows about that kind of musical genre.
Of course.
But it's also about the way that it's going to build and monopolise, isn't it? So there might be another artist that comes out next year and I become obsessed with them. And then you've got another audience.
So, of course, that makes sense.
Like, apart from the commercial side of it, obviously my art is for everyone, but I think mostly people that like the same music that I like. Or that find the same things that I find fascinating. I do a lot of everyday life stuff rather than like high concept art.
No, definitely.
I'm not interested in high concept.
No, great. And how do you feel like you've like helped others along the way during your journey? Do you ever like not give courses or anything, but like, I don't know, like, do you feel like you've helped other people along the way and like shared your knowledge with other people?
I've been, asked to do workshops, and I have do workshops. I teach about the art of the hip hop album cover.
Oh wow!
And graffiti as a protest art, and I do one-to-one tuition.
Do you really?
And,
how long have you been doing that for?
So that's been like a staple part of my business all the way through. But for the first 5 years of my business, I had like 5 jobs.
Such as
just to make cleaner, carer. Teaching.
So much going on.
So, because to make something profitable in the arts, you have to really put a lot of money into it, or spend a lot of time, and often time is the thing that everybody has less of. So, but teaching was obviously one of those kind of avenues.
And do you enjoy that?
I love it. I don't like teaching kids, no disrespect to kids, but obviously a lot of my art is adult content or young person's content as you're kind of dealing with a struggle, and there are quite big conversations to be had about race, sexuality.
Yeah, definitely.
So sometimes I'm not going to be the kind of twee, come on children, let's paint a little.
Understandably so. It's a lot to explain to people that aren't really going to understand it properly. That makes sense. And in what way would you say like creating art helps you? Like, how does it make you feel? Like, you feel good when you're doing it, when you're creating art?
I really feel like art gives me a voice, and I think that's the thing that I'm trying to make a point of with people, is that it really kind of doesn't matter about what you're making or how you're being creative, but it is a way of expression, and you might need to express frustration, anger, or sadness, joy. However you do that, it's another form of a language, so it is my kind of way of speaking.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And a question I had as well was, in COVID, like, yeah, of course, the COVID question was always going to come, but in COVID, like, were you making loads more art, or did you think, this is too much, I have so much time to create art, like, it's overwhelming? Like, how was that for you as an artist? Or an illustrator? What's your preferred?
I don't mind either.
Okay.
It's weird because for the past sort of 3 years I've been doing commission work.
Okay.
And when COVID hit, I thought I'd lose all my commission work.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was very lucky.
Yeah.
Most of my commission work is New York rappers that want album covers, so it made no difference.
That's amazing.
I'm sat at my kitchen table doing exactly the same thing, sending it all digitally anyway.
Yeah.
There's no difference. So I actually didn't stop working, and I didn't have any time for my own art at all, you know, and people had lots of time to make music, so I was kept quite busy, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
so it kind of didn't affect me in that way, but you know, lots of my creative colleagues had real blocks, and I think just in general I've noticed that people have become more frustrated creatively.
Yeah, okay. And would you say like art has like a positive impact on like just mental health and mental well-being generally because it like keeps you productive?
Well, dragging it back to COVID, I think what was a bit magic about COVID for artists and creatives is that people were starting to ask us to do stuff for free, because the people that aren't creative or artists suddenly realised that they really, really needed something to get them through.
Yeah.
Which was great because it meant that we realised that, it is a job.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah,
you need us.
Yeah.
So that was actually quite affirming from a creativity point of view, is that people wanted to look at images, they wanted artwork, and they wanted street art, and they wanted all of that to fill their lives because they were having a crap time.
And that must be a great feeling knowing that your work can help like put a smile on people's faces like that.
Yeah.
Like, especially in a time like COVID where so many people were feeling low, things like that would really like brighten their mood and brighten their life generally. Like seeing a nice piece of Emily Catherine artwork in your living room would be just what they need to get through it. So that's great.
Yeah.
And I had a question as well. You said the new like rappers in New York were essentially asking for your artwork and stuff. How do they find you? Like how do they contact you? Like do they come across like your social
people that I was a fan of or whatever, or that I was interested in, and anyone that followed me back, you know, when you don't have any fans on social media, you sort of go, oh, thanks for the follow, I really appreciate it. And it was one rapper that had kind of said, oh, I'm doing a show, assumed because I'm British that I lived in London. Do you know what I mean? They all assumed from London. And I said, are you doing a show in Nottingham? Because he wanted to buy prints. So I said, oh yeah, I'll bring the prints along. And from that, I met a million other rappers that were all like, actually, you're really good, could we commission you? So it was a totally organic thing. And feel very blessed, and it's just word of mouth, as it is with everything, isn't it? It's all word of mouth.
That's great to have those like incredible connections. Like, have you ever been over to the States? And,
I have,
You have? Where did you go?
I went to New York.
Amazing, it makes so much sense.
And I unfortunately didn't get to actually work in New York. Okay. But I went and, you know, visited all the pilgrimage sites that you go and do, the birth of hip hop and all the rest of it. So I kind of did all of that, and you know, I saw people that I've been in contact with through work and met up with them for a cup of tea. But I wasn't, you know, out there kind of painting giant walls like I'd love to.
One day.
Yeah.
Definitely. And do you have like a favourite type of art which you create? Because I've seen like there's the trainers. Like, and I love sneakers and trainers. Like I'm so sneaker obsessed. So when I saw that, I was like, that's so cool. Like, are you heavily into fashion? Like, is that a thing for you? Like, or what's the inspiration behind the trainer side? Because I've never seen artwork like that. So I was like, oh, like this is really cool. Where was the inspiration or the direction from?
I think I'm the least fashionable person in the world, but I just love everyday things. Sneaker culture is such a huge part. I get excited when I'm unboxing fresh sneakers, even if my taste is not everyone's taste. And also the collectability of them and what they mean to people. And for me, each sneaker or crepe represents a different sort of person. I know exactly who you are if you're turning up in like Merrill shoes. You are cycling, you're out walking a dog. Do you know what I mean? you know, in comparison to people that only rock Adidas or only rock Nike. So really that whole series was about sort of trying to represent people in shoes, and the first editions of everything I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, no, I thought it was so cool, and I saw that, I loved it. And like a lot of your work is very fun, like there's a lot of bright colours, but then you have like a great contrast because there's black and white images, and there's like black and white images with like a pop of colour, right? So like, which is your preference, because they're like completely different vibes, so.
A lot of my commission work has been grayscale faces and humans, and then pops of colour, which I think will either go with the person's decor, or the colour will mean something to them, or it pertains to some kind of meaning for who I'm painting. So Biggie, for example, I did Biggie and Erykah Badu for a couple, and they were going to put it in this huge vaulted living room next to each other. So those colours of Erykah and Biggie had to complement each other. But I had to kind of have a list of favourite colours from the commissioners and have colours that represented both Erykah and Biggie. So then you're in a situation where you've got very little choice. You know? But when I'm painting humans, I like to dull down the whole thing so that what you're looking at is dead easy and kind of nice to read that face. And it gives you a perfect platform for then having something a bit more kind of pictorial with the pops of colour, rather than having craziness going on. You know, sometimes that can be a bit too much.
So do you have a preference between the two, or like you like them both in different ways?
I like them both in different ways.
No, that's fair enough. And roughly how often do you create artwork? Like, is it a daily thing, a weekly thing? Like, how time consuming is it, like, for you?
It totally depends on what is being commissioned. When I'm creating artwork for myself, like I think I did a whole series in 2 weeks of 10 watercolour drawings, because it was
in
for
2
me.
weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
But then some of the Droog stuff that I've done, you know, because he asks for such detailed covers.
Some of the what stuff, sorry?
Your Old Droog, he's a rapper that I've worked a lot with. And his covers, you know, normally are really detailed, and so I'll have to go bigger physically. So I'm there with a huge canvas, like the side of this room, going, oh, I've just got to paint Michael Jackson tiny here, and then just do this giant basketball here. So that can take me 2 months. It entirely depends on what people want.
Wow, that's a lot. So is it like every day you do something, like? Pretty much.
I'm properly working full time at it.
Wow. It is a proper job to everyone that who has anything to say about that. And what's like the longest projects that you've like ever done? Like, what's the longest time one piece of art has taken?
That's such a good question. I think it must be a Your Old Droog one.
Okay.
The very first one I did, I think that took 3 months in total. I think. But I mean, I've worked. I think maybe 3-4 months has probably been the biggest. It's long, isn't it?
For one piece of artwork, that's amazing. And that was what you just said, I don't know how to say his name, sorry.
Your Old Droog.
Your Old Droog. Okay. And this is just a bit of a random question, but how would you describe your work in 3 words? I'll give you some time to think about it, because I just was curious. Because I couldn't think of just 3 words to sum up your work, because there's such a variety of stuff. So I thought, let me ask you, you're better at that than I
am. Somebody described my work now. What did she say about it?
No rush, take your time.
I can't remember what, it's a posh word, and it means protest or not fitting into the norm.
Okay.
And I can't remember the words, but
No,
I'd say like diverse. Because
100%.
I do like tiny little illustrative stuff. And then I do colourful stuff, and then street art. So you'd have to say diverse. I personally say quite real, so quite authentic, and then whatever the posh word is for.
Okay, the posh word that someone said.
Power,
Okay, great. And how do you like hope to like inspire other people? I know that question might be a bit difficult to answer, but like, what would you want people to like kind of take away from your work, or like a little girl that wants to be an artist kind of thing? Like, how would you hope to like inspire like that, like push forward that you can do that attitude kind of thing? Because you went through a lot to get to where you are now. Like 100% your journey has been amazing. Like, hasn't been just clean, smooth sailing the whole time. So what would you give people to like push them kind of thing?
I think you know, most of the people that you look up to have never come at what they do, whether it be successfully or unsuccessfully, easily.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that if you really want to do something, you really can do it.
No, 100%.
So I hope that, you know, if anyone does like my work and is inspired by my story, it just proves that you don't really have to be, you know, rich or have a stable upbringing, or you don't kind of have to do, if you really put your mind to it, you can make a success of yourself and just keep going. Like,
and if you love what you're doing as well, like,
totally,
it changes the whole thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it like your dream job, like you couldn't imagine doing anything else? That's amazing.
And once you've had loads of crap jobs, you know what I mean, you realise you're very grateful for having the privilege of doing it. Like, truly, my job is a privilege. I don't take that for granted.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
my dad always tells me it's something like 1 out of 50 people actually enjoy their job, so that's amazing to be that 1 out of 50. That's amazing. And how do you feel like being a woman in the world of arts, like, that's actually like one of the questions I was really wanting to ask, like, does it have negative impacts, positive impacts, like in what way are they negative and positive, like how does it affect you? Are people sometimes surprised, like they might see your artwork and there might be a guy like, I wonder what guy did this, and it's like, I did this.
Totally.
Like, does that happen?
All the time, and I get asked this question a lot. And basically, the art world is exactly the same as everyday life. You know, it is harder for women. We do get paid less. We do get respected less. You will have people patronise you, talk down to you, assume. It's exactly the same. So you just get it in a different version. And to be honest with you, though, what it does do is it creates a situation where other women who are artists or creatives band together a little bit more, just like in everyday life. If I walked down the street and said, excuse me, I've got a tampon, I know that a woman would be like, got you, girl.
Yeah, of course.
You would never have that in any other kind of, there is a solidarity in women where it's just unspoken. It's exactly the same in the art world, and you get exactly the same pushbacks as well.
Yeah. Would you say there's any like positive benefits of like being a woman? And
tons, because, you know, if you're always fighting against some of those problems, then you have a unity with the people that you're sharing that with.
Of course.
So that's amazing. The other thing is that when you do push through and do something brilliantly, you're showing every other woman that they can do the same. And you can call people out a lot easier because you're using a visual language. There are no rules when you're freelance. You know, it's easier to say when
it's like a community of like. So what would you say are like your next steps or like plans for the future? Like, do you have any crazy goals or like artists that you would like love to work with? Like,
God, I've got tons. So this year I've stopped all my commission work. I'm doing that scary thing where I'm just going to have to take a cut on the money, and I'm kind of building my business because it's been 8 years and I'm so out of date. So I'm going and doing loads of training courses, and I'm going to teach myself how to use different materials like charcoals, and I'm going to do my own stuff, which is the first time in ages. And I'm going to do 2 exhibitions, one in London, one in Nottingham. So this year is the big year, and classic. All of that news will probably come out the next year because I've spent 1 year looking at it.
Makes sense. Wow.
And hopefully that means that I'll get to work with, you know, even better people. It's literally me. That's what I mean about having to take the year, because it's crazy. As soon as you take your eye off the ball, you suddenly realise you're like, oh my god, my website's awful. Oh my god, I don't even know how to utilise TikTok.
But I did see on your website that you were like in the top 100 for something to do with your blog, right? It was.
Do you want the real tea on that though?
Yeah, go on.
So 8 years ago, when I did the course, which was like how to turn your creative business into a business, it said the shortcut to get a really good SEO on Google is you write a blog, right? I thought, I don't believe it. So I wrote this terrible blog. I hate writing blogs, and it would take me a whole day per blog post. So a monthly blog. But it worked. It pushed my website all the way up to the top of the SEO. So then I won this award of like top 100. I think it's literally because no other illustrator was writing a blog. Do you know what I mean? It's like
they just put you there. No, but you deserve that so much. And your personality is so bubbly. I can imagine it even coming across on the internet, people enjoying reading your stuff. Like,
well, as soon as I got it, I stopped writing the blog.
Oh, you stopped?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you got your award and you left.
Great, got my award. Brilliant.
The job done.
Yeah.
No, I get it. So do you like, are you quite big on the, I think I asked already, but I don't know if it was properly addressed, like on social media, like, or is that not really a priority? Like,
it's a huge priority
Okay.
because all of my business comes from social media.
Okay.
My connections come from social
Yeah,
media. I love
yeah.
talking to people about music on social media. Like,
Yeah.
it's all social media, and I'm so out of date. Like, I don't have 13.2 thousand followers.
Yeah, yeah.
I need 13.2
Yeah,
thousand followers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sort of languishing. And I don't know, and it's because I just don't have my own stuff to post daily.
Okay.
I don't really know how it works. I'm 8 years out of date.
Right.
So that's why I'm
okay.
taking this year to make sure I understand it
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least.
And it was like, slow and steady wins the race at the end of the day. Like taking a year to
Yeah.
focus, so like just improve will be like the best thing you could do, really, truly.
Well, it's that, or like, you know, have that out of date business where you don't know what you're doing, just kind of doing the same stuff. I don't want to do that either.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I want to be part of it. So.
How do you feel like the art world has changed, like, since you started doing this, in terms of like, is it more like accepting now?
That's a great question.
Can you?
That's such a good. It's changed loads.
In a good way.
In both ways.
Okay.
In both ways, because you've got the rise of digital art and AI. You've got people sharing art more. You've got the discussion about art, high, low art, working class art, bourgeoisie art.
Yeah.
You've got all of that discussion, and so the playing field is getting leveler, which is great. But then you've also got cuts in the arts, miseducation in the arts. You know, there's been a real sort of suppression of people being able to actually do creative things, including music and drama and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just become louder. The conversation about art has become louder, but the conversation about suppressing the arts has become louder. So you're in a really massive argument at the moment in the art world, and it's great and it's also difficult. And at the same time, it's good that it's happening. The worst thing is silence, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So like, I'm glad that we're having these discussions. I love it. It's great.
It's good to have debate, and controversy can be fun at times, I guess.
Yeah.
It can be good just to like keep the world spinning, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
No, 100%. And obviously at like Skilled Hands, we empower women to create their own businesses through artists and craft workshops. So like you would kind of just tell those women to just go for it with your business, like creating a business, just live your dream kind of thing, like if that's what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think the thing to remember is if you have a skill and you are creative or you have a talent, you'll never be alone. You'll always have something to show somebody, to sell to somebody.
That's a lovely way to think about it.
It's incredible.
So true.
And you're expressing yourself and being able to have those kind of conversations. And women doing that is the strongest that I have ever come across.
Yeah.
So I think it's brilliant what you do, and I'm a huge fan of Skilled Hands.
Well, we
general.
appreciate that so much, and thank you so much for speaking to us today. You've been an absolute pleasure, Emily, and so grateful that you came to talk to us, honestly.
Thank you
for
so
everything.
much.